It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum. And I'm all out of gum.
As a proud member of the racing game genre, I cannot overstate how important Gran Turismo was. From a technical standpoint, it's one of the most important games ever released, especially on the PlayStation. It was 1998, and racing games like Rage Racer and Test Drive 5 weren't really realistic yet, but then there was Gran Turismo, which was very realistic, with realistic physics, graphics that were very impressive on the PS1, with lots of cars to choose from, ranging from Nissan to TVR, and the gameplay was pretty damn good. It was developed by Polyphony Digital, and the game was produced by the god of racing games, Kazunori Yamanouchi. The game was very well received and it sold pretty well, selling almost 11 million copies worldwide, making the best-selling game on the PlayStation. With the success of the game, it should come with no surprise that Poly wanted to make a sequel, and oh boy, what a sequel it was. Anyways, next up we have Gran Turismo 2, the sequel to Gran Turismo, released on December 11th, 1999 in Japan, December 23rd in 1999 in North America, and in January 28, 2000 in Europe. It was once again developed by Polyphony Digital, and the crew planned to make the sequel an even better product. But did they deliver on their promise? Well, let's find out in this review of Gran Turismo 2. Just like with the previous game, GT2 has both arcade mode and simulation mode. But however, since the game has so much content, and I mean a lot of content, the game had to be separated into two discs, one for the arcade mode and one for the simulation mode. However, I'm not going to detail about the arcade mode since there isn't much else to talk about it, but I'll get to that mode later. Right now, we need to talk about the simulation mode, which is the real meat and potatoes of the game. The simulation mode in Gran Turismo 2 is pretty similar to its predecessor. You buy a used car, win races, buy new cars, upgrade them, and become the GT Master. But the simulation mode in Gran Turismo 2 is much better than Gran Turismo 1 simulation mode. For instance, there's a lot of events to race, such as American car events, lightweight car events, compact events, and regional events, and many others. Right from the get-go, you could pretty much tell that the game has a lot more to it than GT1. And it's not just the events though, the car roster has expanded a lot, and I mean a lot. Gran Turismo 2, when it comes to its car roster, it has a lot of fan service. No, not that type of fan service, this type of fan service. The game has over 600 cars at your disposal, and at the time it was big for a PlayStation game, as no other racing game had the amount of cars that GT2 had. In fact, this was the very reason why the game was split into two discs. Talk about a great achievement, good job Polyphony Digital. The game has over 600 cars. We still had the returning manufacturers from the previous game like Nissan, Mitsubishi, Toyota, Subaru, Honda, Aston Martin, TVR, Dodge, and Chevrolet. These manufacturers have new cars in this game. For instance, there's Silvia S15, the legendary GTR R34, the new Imprezas, the Altezza, the Honda S2000, the new Miatas, an improved version of the RX-7, the V8 Vantage, the Tuscan, the delightfully devilish Speed 12, the underrated 3000 GT, and the god itself, the Lancer Evo 5, which is my favorite Lancer by the way, and also the Lancer Evo 6 also appears in this game. The previous cars from GT1 do return in GT2, and you can obtain them by getting them in the used dealerships, or obtaining them as prize cars by winning events. There is new manufacturers in this game, like Suzuki, which has the Escudo Pikes Peak, Tommy Kaira, which has the ZZ2 and the ZZS, Open or Vauxhall if you live in the UK, has the Tigre and the Calibra, Peugeot has the 206 and the 406, Lancia has the Stratos and the Integrail, Fiat has the Turbo Coupe and the Barchetta, Ventuti, which has the 400 GT, Renault has the Clio Sport V6 and the Space F1, Plymouth has the good old Cuda, Mini and MG has the MGF and the classic Cooper, Lister has the iconic Lister Storm, Lotus has the Elise and the Spirit, Volkswagen has the Great Golf, Citroën has the Shantia and the Shara, Chrysler has the Fanteon, Audi has the TT, Alfa Romeo has the 155 touring car, Jaguar has the XJ220, Mercedes is here as well with their CLK and the AMG, Mercury has the Cougar, Vector has the M12, Daihatsu has the Storia, and the Meme Boy itself, the Midget 2D type. BMW has the 323 E46, and Ford has the Mighty Mustang and Satan as well. If I'm being honest, I really like the roster in GT2. This time around it has a lot of variety, ranging from European cars, American cars, and Japanese cars as well, and I love it. For the time, it was the racing game fans' wet dream. I mean, imagine having a racing game with over 600 cars to choose from. However, there's a catch unfortunately. You see, in GT2's simulation mode, you can only have 100 cars in your garage, which kinda sucks. However, if you really want to buy only your favorites and not all of them, then that's not an issue at all. One manufacturer that I haven't mentioned is RUF, which when you look at the RUF cars, it clearly seems that it looked like a Porsche car, but in reality it isn't. You see, for those who don't know who RUF is a German manufacturer who uses unmarked Porsche bodies and chassis. Then RUF builds their own work, and the manufacturer is mostly known for their yellow bird, which resembles a Porsche 930, and the CTR2, which is based on the 993. For many people, it was actually the only way to drive a pseudo Porsche car, since EA had an exclusive deal with Porsche, hence why you didn't see any Porsche cars in any racing game not named Need for Speed in the late 90s. So Polyphony Digital had a workaround for this, and asked RUF if they can add their cars in the game. And they said yes, so that's pretty cool. Who needs Porsche when you have RUF, right? Little fun fact, did you know that the CLK GTR was intended to be included in this game? But sadly, due to licensing issues, it was sadly removed. Same with the CLK touring car. The car was completed, but it was sadly removed as well. Just like with GT1, when you buy a car, you can upgrade it to make it very overpowered, as well turning it into a race car. Keep in mind that not every car can be turned into a race car, so be warned. However, this is important since in later events, it's required to have an upgraded car in order to place first. The events in GT2 have power limit restrictions, so you don't have to overpower your car, but even so, you can easily brute force most of the events with your starter car, if you're really good at racing of course. However, sometimes the events can have cheaters, as in some cars can exceed the event's power restrictions. For instance, in the Historic Car Cup, in the Rome circuit, there's a big chance that a Ford GT40 can appear in this race, or even two GT40s if you're really unlucky. Now, the GT40 has 305 HP, whereas the event only allows cars with HP up to 295. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's only a 10 HP difference, so it should be easy to win, right?
Of course!
Really?
No.
I mean, this car, even with its base 305 HP, it's pretty hard to take it down. You must play aggressively and do not make any mistakes, because it can be impossible to reach first place. However, if you win by using a JDM car, then you deserve a fucking medal. But if you want to know more about the cheating AI in GT2, then I suggest watching Matt J155's video about the cheating AI in this game, as he talks about what cars cheat in GT2, so I suggest watching his video for more information about it. Anyways, if you win any race in any event, you do get a prize car, which you can either use it or sell it. Some cars can be sold at high price. Yeah, I'm looking at used P12.
We've got to have money.
You can earn these cars as many times as you want, so long as you win these races, which makes a nice time for money grinding. Gran Turismo 2 has one make races, which consists of using a specific car and nothing else, meaning that if an event has a Lancer Evo event, you can only use a Lancer Evo car, simple as that. Gran Turismo 2 marks the first time that rally events appear. For each track there are 3 races, and it's one lap race against a ghost car, meaning whoever gets the fastest lap wins. In my honest opinion, Gran Turismo 2's rally races are not as amazing as Colin McRae Rally's 2 rally races, but to be fair, Gran Turismo 2 was meant to be a driving simulator, whereas Colin McRae Rally 2 was solely meant to be a rally simulator, an amazing one at that, but that was it. That's not to say that the rally events are bad, it's just that Colin McRae Rally 2 did the rally races much better than Gran Turismo 2. Gran Turismo 2 has 28 tracks. with the 10 previous tracks from Gran Turismo 1 returning, minus the special stage Road to 11, there's new tracks to cruise. New tracks like Rome Circuit, Rome Night, Apricot Hill, Midfield Raceway, Seattle Circuit, Tahiti Road, Tahiti Circuit, Tahiti Maze, Motorsports Land, Green Forest Roadway, Pikes Peak Hill Climb, Super Speedway, Grindelwald, Red Rock Valley Speedway, Smoky Mountain, and of course, the first real-life circuit in the game, Laguna Seca. These tracks are pretty fun to drive even to this day, and some of these tracks only appeared in this game, like Grindelwald and Red Rock Valley, and they never appeared in other GT games, and I wish that these tracks would appear in the upcoming Gran Turismo 7. Please, Polyphony Digital, make it happen, please. Anywho, the license tests are back in Gran Turismo 2, and this time around they're back with a vengeance. Sure, we do have the simple tests like cornering, accelerating, braking tests, and those special license tests, but now we do have other license tests, for example the rally tests, and these fucking slalom tests. Oh my fucking god, these are the fucking worst. These tests are from hell. They are really that hard, and I almost rage quitted because of that. I know this is gonna be a hot take, but I do think that the license tests in every Gran Turismo game were boring and tedious. Now sure, when you play these games for the first time back in its heyday, they weren't that annoying, but looking back, the tests were nothing but a pain in the ass. But at the end of the day, it's just my opinion. Now, does that make the game bad? No, not really, as the rest of the game is pretty damn amazing. But do the license tests have some use? Well, apart from allowing access to some other events, they also unlock new tracks in the arcade mode. You see, the only way to access more courses in the arcade mode is actually complete the license tests. So at least the license tests have some use, I guess. And speaking of arcade mode, the mode has been improved. Now, you don't have to do that bullshit you did in GT1, like for instance, you have to beat the track 3 times with 3 different classes. Now, this time around, if you win a race at normal level or higher, you do unlock a new car, which makes the mode so much more accessible to play. Not only that, but reverse versions of the tracks can be unlocked by winning races in the arcade mode at difficult level. Now, cars are divided by classes, and you'll unlock Class S cars at some point in the arcade mode, so there's that. And there's also the rally mode, which is like time trial on rally circuits, and time trial which is self-explanatory. One other improvement that I found in the arcade mode is that you can use your cars from the simulation mode in the arcade mode, which is pretty damn cool. Not only that, but if you complete the S license, you do unlock something pretty damn good, and that's the event generator, which is a feature that only appears in Gran Turismo 2. What this does is allowing the player to enter a race with a random select track, and it's a pretty good feature, and it makes the game having lots of replay value since you don't know what track are you going to race, as it's very randomized. The driving physics have been improved from GT1. The controls for a realistic racing game are pretty damn good. They are pretty responsive, but they take time to get used to it, since firstly it's a simulation racing game, and secondly you need to learn different techniques, for example drifting, understeering, and oversteering. Every car never feels the same since they have different drivetrains like all-wheel drive, front-rear drive, mid-rear drive, and front-front drive, which can affect the car handling. And some cars oversteer and some other understeer. You just have to master the controls in this game if you want to be the very best, like no one ever was. Also, one thing that I forgot about in the previous Gran Turismo review is that you could also do some tuning. For instance, you could increase your top speed at the cost of acceleration and vice versa, as well changing how the suspension works, swapping tires, and so on, which adds lots of strategy and versatility as well. All of this is returned in Gran Turismo 2. The game supports both the DualShock and the Neck-Con. Now, for those who don't know what a Neck-Con is, it's actually a weird controller released for the PlayStation 1, which was used solely for racing games like Ridge Racer, Need for Speed High Stakes, and of course Gran Turismo as well. And it works pretty damn well. And since Beetle PSX has had its support for the Netcon controller, it made the experience so much better. Trust me, it really does. You can also save your own replays as well, so that's pretty damn cool, and there's also demos for you to watch as well. The graphics in Gran Turismo 2 are pretty damn good for a PS1 game. Generally speaking, the car models in GT2 do look pretty damn good for the time when the game was released, and for a PS1 game, it's absolutely fantastic. The attention to detail on all the tracks in the game is pretty damn high. The lighting, the shadows, you name it. It clearly just goes to show that Polyphony Digital definitely pushed the PS1 to its absolute limits, and it shows. The only thing that holds back graphics wise is the slowdown. However, thanks to emulation, that's not an issue at all, since you can overclock the PS1 CPU and remove the slowdown, making the experience much more smoother. However, if you want to go even further beyond, you can actually play the game at true 60 frames per second by using a cheat code. If you want to know more of this, you can check my video on how to play Gran Turismo 2 at true 60 frames per second. Trust me, once you play at 60 frames per second, you can't go back to its original frame rate. Overall, the graphics got an improvement, and it clearly shows. And thanks to emulation, it gets even better due to slowdown removal, and with the 60 frames per second code like I mentioned before, it's considered as the swan song of the PS1 by showing its full potential. The soundtrack of Gran Turismo 2 was composed by Masahiro Ando and Isamu Ohira. The soundtrack has a lot of remixed versions of their previous music. For instance, the East City music is actually a remixed version of the Toyota theme in the Japanese version of GT1, as well as the South City being a remixed version of the Chevrolet theme from the Japanese version of GT1. And I love the remixed versions of it. They are pretty damn catchy and groovy. Here, listen. The menu soundtrack is the same for all regions. However, the soundtrack during races are pretty different per region. Just like with the previous game, both the PAL and the NTSC have licensed music, with the NTSC version having classic hits such as Super Bon Bon from Soul Coughing, I Think I'm Paranoid from Garbage, Sexy Type Thing for Stone Temple Pilots, and Dragula for Rod Zombie, and Cole Rock the Mic from Apollo 440. Whereas the PAL version of the game has a different soundtrack, with hits such as Fucking in Heaven from Fatboy Slim, Blame from Everything But the Girl, Death Trip 21 from Ash, and Big Dog from Propeller Heads. In my personal opinion, I prefer the NTSC soundtrack over the PAL soundtrack, because they're pretty damn good to hear and they're pretty damn catchy, whereas the PAL soundtrack, apart from two songs, Fucking in Heaven and Blame, the soundtrack in my opinion is pretty forgettable to me. But then again, at the end of the day, it's my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. As for the Japanese version of the game, it has its original soundtrack instead of licensed music that the US and the PAL versions had. Also, one thing that I forgot about the soundtrack of the US and PAL versions is that as much as I want to show you the soundtracks from the US and PAL versions, I can't because, you know, YouTube can copyright me and there's a great chance that the video will get blocked due to using licensed music, so you can just search the songs on YouTube. It's not that hard to do. Also, GT2's intro-themed song is the famous My Favorite Game for the Cardigans. This song was also used in the US in the PAL versions of the game, whereas the Japanese version had its iconic theme song, Moon Over the Castle. The sound effects for the cars, like the engine sounds, are pretty good to hear, although they recycle most of their engine sounds in other cars. But I think it's understandable, given you have over 600 cars in the game, it's gonna be a pretty hard task to implement a different engine sound for every single different car. But to be fair, it's more of a limitation than lazy design if I'm being honest. But aside from that, the sound effects from the cars are pretty good to hear, especially the Mazda Demio. If you tune it to its maximum power, it sounds like a fucking UFO. God, I fucking love it. It's like hentai to my ears. Overall, the soundtrack, specifically the NTSC version, is pretty damn good, and the engine sounds are pretty well made. Well done, Polyphony Digital, well done. So, is Gran Turismo 2 any good? You're kidding me, right? It's easily one of the best PS1 games ever made. For me, it's the best racing game on the PS1. The game is majestic and a delicacy of racing gaming. The best racing game on the PS1, the holiest of the holy racing trinity, hallowed be its name. Everything Need for Speed 4 and CMR 2.0 did, GT2 did better. The graphics, the music, the gameplay, everything. And as the sequel, GT2 makes GT1 look like dog shit, and it clearly shows. Right now, you can buy this game on Amazon for about between 12 to 35 euros, depending what kind of condition the game is. And trust me, this game is worth every penny. It's an amazing game. Great job, Polyphony Digital. Overall, GT2 is an outstanding game, and then some. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos. And I'll see you guys next time.
好きで好きすぎてどれだけ